All right. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there and helping me figure this out. My name is Austin, and I'm here to talk about a new course that I'm launching this year, and I'm excited to share it with you and the world. It's called Saving the World, from Your Backyard, a small-scale permaculture-ish course. And I say that because, as I'll explain, a full permaculture course, one which gives you a design certificate at the end, is about 72 hours. And this one is a little bit, I call it permaculture light. So I'm going to introduce you to a lot of the concepts so that you can start doing stuff right in your backyard. That's the idea. I love permaculture, totally shifted my consciousness and changed my world. But I know that not everybody can take, a week or two away from their daily lives and invest in that. So that's another one of the reasons why I have developed this course. So we'll go into all the details currently. All right. Let's get started. So ultimately, I think this course might evolve into something multi-part, but for now, let's just stick with part one. And I like to say the journey begins at the place we call home. And once you take this journey, there's no going back. So once you have an understanding of all the stuff that we're going to go over and you dive in, you're never going to be the same. And this is what happened to me when I started studying permaculture. It really just, like I said, shifted my own consciousness. The way I see the world, the way I see everything has changed. And as I like to say, you will be unable to fall back to your previous level of enlightenment, which is a good thing. So I was trying to think of all the things that have inspired me since I took on permaculture. And so hopefully you can find at least one, maybe three reasons that resonate with you on this list, why you would want to join this course. So again, once we start connecting more with the earth, it's going to be a healing process. And whether that means it's the food that we're growing or just standing barefoot on moist soil. These are both just simple examples of how our body can heal simply by reconnecting. So another benefit you'll get is you'll reduce your food costs because you'll be growing at least some portion of your food right in your own backyard. And by the way, it's going to be way better quality food than even organic food that you can buy at fancy grocery stores. Like I said, reconnecting with nature is another key benefit to undergoing this transformation. And at the same time, you're going to be able to clean up your own land, the air, and even the waterways to the extent that you have that in on your property. Sticking it to the overlords, that's something we can always do. If we can avoid buying something and growing it or making it ourselves and sharing it with the world, to me that's an example of sticking it to the folks that want to just keep buying and consuming it forever and throwing stuff away and all that kind of stuff. So while you're doing this process, you might reduce your carbon footprint, and we'll talk about that. We'll get into deep detail on that. Some of the larger benefits might be to help revive your community. This is anecdotal, but ever since I started doing this stuff, I've noticed that, especially building our garden out in our front yard, that people that are walking by, they're curious and they see, mulberries and figs and lemons and collard greens that we're growing. And they just you can tell, they're like, okay, cool. Somebody cares about our neighborhood. And, who knows, maybe they're going to go home and grow something. So it's a small way to, create your own, your own habitat, so to speak, that you love. But I think it's infectious in a good way. It's going to help bubble out into your community. And so those are some of the reasons. You might be the coolest or the kookiest neighbor on your block, depending on your perspective. So hopefully you found at least three that resonate with you. If you have, and if you like typing them into the chat, go ahead and do that. or leave a comment if you're watching this on the replay. So the format of the course is going to be 6 in-person sessions. Actually, it'll be 7. The first one will be an introductory in-person session, and that actually will be offered free, so anybody can join that and get a feel for what we're going to be covering. So the sessions are going to be the 3rd Saturdays of each month, starting February, with February being the introductory course. And it's going to be probably about 3 to 4 hours each of these sessions. And we're going to be doing a combination of presentation material, hands-on work, or as I like to say, field work, because we'll be actually meeting at multiple different sites. I'm going to do my best to get the whole sessions recorded, so you'll be able to access the information again on the replay. And the idea is that we're going to be meeting at multiple different active, I'd say, permaculture sites around the county. That will start with my home here in City Heights in San Diego. But I've got some friends in high places that are also doing cool permaculture projects. So we'll be able to take field trips and meet out at those spaces as well. So you'll get multiple perspectives on what's going on, as well as you'll see properties that are in different stages, so to speak. Some are further along than others, really to help create inspiration for you. And I'll have homework, so to speak, that you can do in between the sessions. So you'll have 3 to 4 weeks between each one to absorb, practice, and maybe do a project or two. And also, if you do sign up for the class, the course, I'll also be able to do a one-on-one, 1-hour consultation with you to find out, to help you get started on your journey after the course concludes, or even during. I'm flexible on that. So what is special about this particular course that I've launched? So one thing, as I mentioned before, is that it's a shorter time commitment than a full permaculture design certificate course, which, by the way, I recommend any human on the planet should take one of those if they can. But again, if we've got busy lives and we can't get away for that long, I've created a more light version, so to speak. So my course will enable you to take actionable steps right away things you can implement on your land after each session. Another thing to note is that this material, because I've been living in San Diego and Southern California for over 20 years, there are specific things that we would want to implement that are more germane to our climate, which is considered a dry land climate. We get about 12 inches of rain on average a year in our area. So that's different than being maybe in an area that's more tropical or that freezes and gets 20 below. So I'm going to tailor the material to our climate. And it's also a really good blend, like I said, of both presentation material, observation, which is a key concept that we'll get into in one of the modules, as well as field work. So you'll get to see stuff, we'll have small mini projects that we can do within the context of one of the sessions you literally get your hands dirty in some cases. And we do that again by curated field trips to different permaculture sites around the county. As I mentioned before, ample time between sessions to study, observe, absorb, and practice what you learn. And for this first session, we're going to keep it small. So we'll have an intimate group. It'll be no more than 12 people so that everybody can get their questions answered, and we can just have the right level of attention. So here is the core curriculum. Again, it's very high level. We'll dive into more detail as we progress. But the first thing I wanted to say is that the first session, so actually even though this has 6 on there, I decided to create 7 actual sessions from it. So 1 and 2 are wrapped up in the introduction. So the introduction, again, is going to be more of a hands-on, get to really see before you commit to what the course is going to be about, get to talk to me, get to talk to your other fellow students, and really just kind of make that final decision as whether you want to do it. So that's session 1. Session 2 will be the concepts. So we do want to lay some groundwork, especially if this is new information for you, in terms of just some basic concepts, whether that's observational skills, whether that what permaculture actually is, what regenerative agriculture is, what's the difference between those two, and really just start to give you a vocabulary over which we can start to build upon from there. So we do need to spend a good amount of time on the concepts piece of it before we, move further. The second session, called Seeing Things Differently, is again a little bit as your consciousness begins to shift. We want to give you the tools that allow you to be successful in things like permaculture, and that one of the key facets that we're going to be talking about is observation, how to revive or hone your observation skills so that you can interact with your land, interact with your environment, figure out what's going on, figure out where the energy flows, and the information flows, the water flows, the sun, that sort of stuff. Just gives you the tools to be able to observe things in their truest fashion. And in some cases that may mean we need to unlearn the way we've been taught how to see things. So I know that was the case for me. So that's session 2, or I guess session 3, but I'll keep the numbers aligned here for this slide. Session 3, fire and air. So I wanted to break this down into sort of an elemental understanding. There are hundreds of ways to slice and dice this body of knowledge and information. So fire and air being the first 2 elements. So that will encompass, the sun, of course, and how important that is to the overall ecosystem that we're going to be working in. Air, that can mean prevailing winds. So I'll just explain a lot of concepts centered around those 2 key elements in the fire and air section. Section after that, earth and water. Of course, earth being soil, soil being earth. That's going to be one of the key things that we're exploring, and understanding soil really is half the battle in a lot of ways. Of course, water is life. We wouldn't be here without it, and so understanding its importance, how to view it, how to capture it if we're talking about rainwater or gray water, for example, and how to use it on our land. And we want to soak it, slow it down, and sink it into the land, and that will help create this flywheel of life, really, that ultimately is what we want to create on our land. And the module after that, plants and animals, of course, that's what we're here to do. We're here to grow plants and maybe animals, depending on whether what your values are. But we will talk about how integral animals are to a healthy ecosystem, whether that's chickens or bees or even worms. They're animals too. So that's what that module is going to be focused on. And finally, the human culture aspect, which is how we interact with our land and how that what we do affects our community and vice versa. And not to be too abstract about it, but it's going to be a lot about how we interact. How much time are you willing to put into your land, and just sort of tuning your setup and what you create to reality, to what how you will interact with it. So hopefully that gives you some insight as to what we're going to be covering. Let's see. So again, these are the dates. We will be having our introductory session at my homestead called Cherokee Gardens, because I live in a neighborhood called Cherokee Point in San Diego. And then we'll also have the first session, the concept session here. And then the future sessions, I've got a few ideas on where we will meet. I've got some, like I said, some friends and that have their own setups that are fantastic. And maybe we'll find some new places around the county that we can, maybe that don't have anything yet, that we could go and that could be like an example where we can go and do a basic design, for example. So I know I've got some folks who are interested in sharing, offering their land as a template or as a place where we could do some work. So we'll be figuring that out as we go along. So that's kind of the dates as well as the modules. And so, yeah, as far as pricing, it's going to be about 24 or so hours of together time. If you do sign up before February 8th, then you can get the early bird special. And after that, there is this standard pricing. And if for some reason you can't attend all 6 courses, you can purchase them as a la carte. So see the pricing there. And if you do want to sign up, you can go to our new website, vibrantfreq.com. That's 2 E's, F-R-E-E-Q. It's short for Vibrant Frequency Permaculture, which is the name of the enterprise that I'm working under.